Hello and welcome to this taste challenge. I have two 80 proof bourbon whiskeys. I finished with Kentucky and Tennessee. Now we're on to states outside of those normal bourbon states. Ezra Brooks is from Kentucky, but I'm talking about the competitors. This is Ezra Brooks, Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey, sour mash, no age statement. They claim on the side since 1800. I don't know the connection there because I know Ezra Brooks came out in 1957, so I don't know where the other 157 years went with that, but that could be a connection with the producer who started Ezra Brooks, whatever. Oh, it's owned by Luxco these days. I found this 80 proof version at International Market. It was $10.99. They had quite a number of bottles. My friend David said he checked. He didn't see any. I don't know if somebody watched the video and went and bought them all. It's not anything remarkable in this. It's just regular bourbon. So if you've tasted regular old bourbon, you've had it. But it's remarkable in the sense that it was only $10.99. It's been competing so strongly against a lot of other bigger brands, and I couldn't even tell it apart most of the time. So that's a benefit. But you can't get it in the United States anymore unless, like I say, you find a 10-year-old bottle lingering on the shelves. This is from 2015. This is a 2015 bottle. Right around that time, they introduced a 90. They replaced this for the U.S. market with a 90 proof. And then 2 years ago, they replaced the 90 proof with a 99 proof, which is the normal today. Ezra Brooks is not at every liquor store. It's at many liquor stores. They had it at Walmart until just about 2 weeks ago, and then it disappeared. Talking about this local Walmart. I don't know what the story is on that. But they're saying on the website for Australia only these days. So it's kind of strange. Now here's Jesse James, America's Outlaw Bourbon Whiskey, introduced in 2011. This is the white label, 40% alcohol. It's bottled in California. It says always drink upstream from the herd. This bottle says age 2 years. And every time I find this in Louisiana, and I do see it around, not too much, but around, it says age 2 years. The website, however, is showing a bottle and they're saying 3 years. So the website says age 3 years. So apparently they're sending Louisiana a 2-year version. Well, obviously they're sending it, not apparently, that's what's on the shelves. So, but I mean, it's apparently they make more than one variant, but they only feature one on the website. I don't know why we're getting a 2-year version. I never bothered to email the company and ask them. A brand owned by Jesse James Dupree, who was a member of a rock and roll band in the 90s, hard rock band. But I found this liter bottle at Savannah Discount. They had it on a display for $7.99. It was like 6 years ago. I figured, I don't know anything about this bourbon, but for $7.99 a liter, I'm buying it. And it turned out to be pretty good. So obviously that didn't last, but a couple of days, if it lasted 2 days, people bought it. Because a lot of people out there are like me. They see it, it's that price, they're buying it, no questions asked. So both of these were found in Jefferson Parish. This on the east bank of the Mississippi River, that on the west bank. Some parishes in Louisiana are cut into two pieces by the Mississippi River. Plaquemines Parish, Orleans Parish, Jefferson Parish, St. Charles Parish, St. John the Baptist Parish, St. James Parish, Ascension, and I believe Iberville are the ones that are cut into two pieces. I don't think I overlooked one. So it's kind of strange, but is the case. Now, if you go to St. Louis, there's St. Louis and East St. Louis on either side of the Mississippi River, but they're in two separate states. They're not the same city. Memphis and West Memphis, same thing. Tennessee and then Arkansas. But New Orleans is actually the same city, but it's in two pieces on either side of the river. And the west side, they call it Algiers, not a separate city. A lot of people think it is because it appears to be. You know, it has its own downtown and everything. And it looks like a separate town, but it isn't. Sort of like Staten Island. It looks like it's a separate city, but it's part of New York, St. George and all. But anyway, and during Katrina, none of Algiers flooded. None of the West Bank, and honestly, had very little damage. Wind damage was low, kind of like New Orleans. The wind damage in New Orleans was, I mean, it did tear off the cover of the Superdome, and but that was easily repaired, you know. But it caused leaking. But generally, the damage from the wind was easily fixed. That wasn't the problem. Is that the flood walls fell down and the whole city flooded. 80% of the city flooded, but only on the East Bank. They had people on the West Bank watching television coverage of this major catastrophe, people drowning and everything, and all kind of other horrible things happening. And then they're sitting in the air conditioning, watching it. They never lost electricity, water, nothing. And if you drove around Algiers after the storm, well, there were trees down and stuff like that. But let's say a week after the storm, you'd never know they had a hurricane. New Orleans looked like a war zone, you know, for years after. So I'm talking about the East Bank. So that's an interesting little tidbit of information there I think you'll find. Tommy Carroll says, top of the morning, Louisiana Whiskey Reviews. Enjoy the clinic very much. A good solid Pilsner. Found a little spicy and also a bit grassy. Excellent. I love Pilsners. Okay, maybe the best beer made, you know, in my opinion. So here's the Luxco website. If you go to Ezra Brooks, it shows all the different bottle sizes and everything. But 80 proof, Ezra Brooks Black, they call it black because it's got the black label. They make little airplane bottles for export, and then the 700 milliliter, smaller than what we get in America. It's only for Australia export. Isn't that strange? So if you live in Australia, the Ezra Brooks you get is the 80 proof I'm drinking today. That would be your normal. So that's Ezra Brooks, the bourbon cream, the 25 proof normal. But that was our former bourbon cream. We don't get that anymore. Replaced with a higher proof. So that's interesting, isn't it? Oh, let me show you the American Outlaw, Jesse James. Oh, Koenig Pilsner, Koenig. Yeah, it said clinic. You must be doing the text. Jesse James Bourbon Whiskey, made in the spirit of America's true outlaw. Okay. Old time charcoal mellowed. Oh, I forgot to put that in the notes. They're both charcoal mellowed. So they drip them through charcoal, either before they age it or after. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't change it from bourbon or something else. An oak cast for a minimum of 36 months. Although, like I said, my bottle says 2 years. Incredibly smooth. I don't know about incredibly smooth, but it is smooth. Full bourbon character. That for the outlaw in you. Well, I hope I don't have an outlaw in me. Always drink upstream from the herd. And what other products do they make? There's this Tennessee whiskey they've got now. Spiced cinnamon. You know, all the liquor companies, you know, that are making these flavored whiskeys. That's such a high thing. There's this single barrel, which I've never seen any of these other ones. Different bottle design too. And a barrel strength Tennessee whiskey. So availability, I don't know what to say. Probably big in California where it's bottled, but I can't say anywhere else. Wasn't for it. Wasn't looking for Ezra Brooks. Just stumbled across him. My usual find. I found a tequila the other day, Santo. Runs about $38 in Total Wine and More, $38.99. The local store had it for $16.99. Over half price off. But I didn't buy it. I was like, man, I got so much tequila, you know. I said, I'm thinking about it, you know, I'm thinking about it. And I know Santo gets high scores and everything. But I was like, no, I can't do it. I got too many that it's taken years to even open the bottle, so I just passed on it. I know, sounds bad, but now one of these is lighter, but I don't know which one it is. Is it the America's Outlaw Bourbon Jesse James, or is it the Ezra Brooks? I think I don't know. All right. In the bottle, they look the same, copper, no all main. We won't hear the garbage truck coming past like sometimes, because they already passed before I started the video. I hear the waste management coming. They're very efficient. They come. We had a company before them years ago. They were terrible, but this company, they come. Well, it might be bad if it wakes you up, but they come at like 4:50 in the morning, and they don't leave trash anywhere. They close the lids of the cans back, and they just like very tidy. So that's something to say, something good. This smells like corn, and obviously they most likely, well, I can't say obviously, but they almost certainly both have other whiskeys in there, like rye whiskey and malted barley whiskey, but I don't know the mash bills because they don't give the mash bill. So 80 proof charcoal mellowed bourbon whiskeys. Yeah. Does a bourbon whiskey have to be filtered through charcoal? No. In fact, it doesn't have to be filtered at all. But sometimes they charcoal mellow it. Sometimes they chill filter it. Or like George Dickel, they do both. They mellow it through charcoal. They let it drip through charcoal, the Lincoln County process in Tennessee. Then they age it. And then they chill filter it. That's their process. If you live in Canada, their process. And they tout it because they are the ones that develop chill filtering. So they talk about how important that is and everything. Other liquor companies say, oh, no, it messes up the product, blah, 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 whatever. I don't know the answer because I'm not a scientist. Personally, I haven't noticed much of a difference or any difference really either way, but other people claim it is. But I'm just saying, to me, I haven't noticed it. But I'm not a master or a sommelier or anything. I'm not a cicerone. I'm not a Republican. I'm just kidding around now. I'm a Democrat, but an old style Democrat, like people say, what kind of Democrat is that? I said, look up Grover Cleveland. Read about Grover Cleveland. Most people might know the name, but they're not familiar. He was a president 2 different times. There was only 2 people in the United States history that were president 2 separate times, not connected. And he never was married until 49 years old. He got married at 49 years old to a 21-year-old. She lived a long time after him. And some of the children lived until the 1990s. But that was I said, now that's a good thing. I said, that's pulling it off. I told somebody at work, I said, now Grover Cleveland married a woman. She was 21 and he was 49. And the lady at work said, yeah, but you're not the president. I said, point taken. I guess that might have had something to do with it. And she was really good looking too. She was pretty beautiful. Ooh. You're kidding about being a Democrat, right? It says crap beer-tastic. No, I'm not kidding. But I told you, a traditional Democrat, like Thomas Jefferson, who was the first. And like, like I said, Grover Cleveland. I'm not talking about these modern ones. Got really no interest in their kind of philosophy. Parties change over the years. Some people don't realize that. They'll think, well, the Democrat Party is like this in 2025. So they were like that in 1800 when Jefferson was, 1801 when he became president. No, it was like almost a totally different, had the same name, totally different party. Well, actually, it was called the Republican Party back then. It's another little bit of trivia that people don't realize. That when it first started, it was called the Republican Party. And then it split into two factions, the National Republicans and the Democratic Republicans. Oh, well, let's not get into all of that, but that's so interesting. That's why I taught history. I got paid to talk about stuff I'm interested in, so it wasn't really like work. Okay, corn. More corn and, well, a stronger aroma, let's say, and more charred oak. Taste time. Tastes like whiskey, which means very sugary, like sugar water. Sugar water. I find whiskey tastes like sugar water, really. I don't know why I find that, but it does. I mean, kind of honey, fruity, like some kind of candied fruit. No joke, like you get in fruitcake. Vanilla from the oak. Yeah, I like it. I never drink it. I never drink any liquor unless I'm doing a taste challenge. And I've had people challenge me on that. You know, when you get home from work, you want to relax and have a cocktail or have some whiskey. Honestly, I don't do it. If I did do it, I would tell you about it. How you think I saved these things for years? Been taste challenging this for 6 years. You think I'm drinking it all the time? No, I just do the taste challenges and I don't drink it anymore. The rest of the day, I do the beer project. That's keeping me busy. So if you want to say I'm nursing them along, that is true. Which is why I have these dozens and dozens and dozens of unopened bottles. I counted the other day. Somebody asked me, how many bourbons do you have unopened? I think it's 17. At this rate, that's a lifetime. I mean, I can't. Oh, it's 18. I forgot to count Buffalo Trace, which I have in another cabinet. Forgot about that when that's unopened. It just fits in that smaller cabinet because it's like a shorter bottle. 18 unopened bourbons. Enough's enough. And I mean, tequila's out of control. So, well, these are remarkably similar. They're both charcoal mellowed. They're both, well, they're not similar in age though, because this one is only 2 years aged, the Jesse James, and the Ezra Brooks is at least 4. So that's a difference. This one's from Kentucky. The state probably doesn't matter, but I guess the water could. Jesse James just says bottled in California, and it doesn't claim to be straight bourbon. I think the reason for that is that it could be used in bourbons from different states. Could be used in, well, you know, they might age it in California also and just bottle it there. They might even have a charcoal mellowing facility in California. I don't know the details. They don't give many. It could be bringing in Indiana bourbon or distillate. Kentucky distillate, Tennessee distillate, blending them together in California, aging them and bottling it. But that would disqualify it for straight bourbon, you see, just because it's coming from different states. So, question, can you take distillates from different states, blend them together and age it in new charred oak barrels and call it bourbon? Answer, yes. Question, can it be called straight bourbon? Answer, no. Question, can you add flavoring to it? No. Nope. Unless you call it bourbon with flavoring, then it's not a bourbon. Then it's bourbon with flavoring. In other words, it's been modified. It would not be technically a true bourbon. These are both true bourbons. Okay. Flavor is not that different. Another troublesome one. This one's got more charred oak, though. The one in my right hand, more charred oak. So that's making me think Ezra Brooks, because I noticed Ezra Brooks did have a little, a good deal, actually, not just a little charred oak character. What the problem is that a lot of the other bourbons I have, they manifest that. They show that. whereas the Jesse James isn't too charred oaky. It's there, but they could be using a very low char, and that kind of thing, where Ezra Brooks might be using a heavy char. So honestly, I would buy either one. I would recommend either one, especially if you get it for the super price I found them for. Most likely that won't happen. Now, when I see when I see Jesse James at the store, at the stove, there's a spaceship went by. When I see Jesse James at the stove, it's always in the regular bottle, the 750 milliliter, not this 1,000 milliliter bottle, and it's usually running about $18, $17.99. So that's the normal price, and that's not a bad price actually for good bourbon. It is good bourbon, but $7.99 for a liter is amazing, and I'm so happy I found it for that. Ezra Brooks, when I do see it, and that's pretty commonly found, I see it in the 750s, and it's 99 proof. But that's what's on the market these days, and I never bought it yet, if ever, because of, like I said, the backstop. So if this one's really good, and it is most excellent, would I assume that the 99 proof is going to be most excellent? Well, yeah, it's probably the same exact stuff, just not diluted down to 80. My experience with Ezra Brooks is 100% positive. Super good bourbon. Beautiful bourbon cream, the 25 proof, that's no longer sold here. Wonderful 33 proof bourbon cream. A fantastic rye. I have the 90 proof rye. That's been changed. But I found an older bottle. Like I said, about 10 years old. And that's 4 winners. Now that's a good run, right? I get 4 different Ezra Brooks products at random. Every time was random. I never was looking for these. And they're always wonderful. Well, that's telling me they make wonderful whiskey, right? Must be. Jesse James, would I think that all their stuff's going to be good? Yeah. Now, they don't have a distillery. There's no Jesse James distillery. It's sourced. Or in Scotland, they would call that independent bottler. They're buying stocks from somebody. Could be Ezra Brooks, for all we know. Luxco, you know what I mean? So we don't know. We're not going to know. But, yeah. It's a decent looking label. Kind of plain, but it's nice. I don't know if the guy's making any kind of money off this. He sells all kind of shirts, caps, boots, vests, kind of Western themed stuff, motorcycle club stuff type thing. He might make money. He sells all kind of whiskeys, flavored and otherwise. So he seems pleasant, like, you know what I mean? Like you see interviews, he doesn't seem hostile or like loud and obnoxious. Seems pleasant, calm, you know. His act on stage was a little different, but it was like a lot of rock groups. It's more of an act. Not always. So I'm calling this Ezra Brooks because I think it's got more char and it's a little bit better, but I wouldn't really pay extra for it. But they run about the same price in a normal sense, so you wouldn't have to pay more. Oh, I'm shocked. Shocked / not shocked. Because I thought I had it nailed, but I'm not shocked because Ezra Brooks has been screwing me up the whole time because I keep getting it wrong. Once again, does Ezra Brooks compete? Answer, absolutely. But it doesn't stand apart. It's just like regular. So that might appeal to many people. You say, I want a bourbon. I don't want some exotic flavor. I don't need one finished in a sherry cask and all of this business. I want just a regular bourbon. Tastes like regular bourbon. That's me. I'm Dr. Regular. I'm Mr. Regular. I'm Senor Regular. I want regular. Well, this is it. Prototypical bourbon. Louisiana Whiskey Reviews. I picked up a 12-pack of variety of Samuel Adams yesterday for a mostly a beer called Flannel Fest. Have you ever tried it? Yeah, I love it. It's a fall brown lager. It's one of their best beers, in my opinion. Flannel Fest. We got a long way to go in Louisiana until we get to fall weather, though. Let me tell you, at least probably late September. If then, we will be in the 90s this week. I have to mow the lawn. You'll lose weight mowing lawn around here. Might lose your life if you're not careful. But you get a lot of exercise, but you got to be able to take it, though. And I usually cut the grass, mow the lawn around 11 in the morning, 12 and then 12 noon at the heat of the day, because I find the grass really cuts easy. It's real crispy and dry, but you'd be worn out after that. Then I'll sweep up everything and trim some areas. I'm trying to get this monkey grass to grow back in a section where it just got decimated by the drought 2 years ago. It was my fault because I didn't water it. I just wanted to see, like, let me see what happens if I don't water it. Can monkey grass take the heat and the drought? Answer, no. It did not. Now, a lot of it grew back, and I discarded all the dead, but a lot of it died. And, that St. Augustine grass, you've seen my backyard in videos. It looks like green carpet, shag carpet. It's very virulent as far as its strength to grow, So it takes over everything. And I have to cut it with scissors around the monkey grass. Now, once the monkey grass gets strong, if that ever happens, then nothing can take it over. And like in the backyard in the shade, that monkey grass is like a solid block. But it can take the sunlight, but it has to have the water. Yes. Now, St. Augustine will look terrible in the winter. You'll look and say, "Oh, your yard is full of weeds. You need to put weed killer in all of this." But then I say no, because once the rain and the sun comes out, that St. Augustine will take over again, like the carpet, and it did this summer. That thing. I do have some Bermuda grass in the front. It has to have a lot of sun. The Bermuda grass is what they use. It's real fine, like cat hair. Bermuda grass is what they use on Major League Baseball fields and NFL football fields. It's real sensitive, though, but it's soft. It's like carpet. It's so much better for the players than that artificial turf, which is like little razor blades. That's why they wear those strips on their arms, those plastic or long sleeves, because it'll really cut your arm. It's give you brush burn. It's terrible stuff. They tried coming out with grass that would grow in the shade, but they couldn't find any that would work. Even the Superdome, they had some company said, "We're going to bring in this grass that grows in the shade." And they played a preseason game once, and they said it smelled like a swamp. And the players didn't like the surface, so the Saints said, "Thank you for that experiment, but we're not using it." No. Okay. I guess in a way, the winner again is Ezra Brooks, because it held up against kind of a comparable product, kind of an inexpensive product. But I couldn't tell it apart, and I apologize, I guess. I apologize. I mean, I don't know what I should be sorry for. It probably trick up most people. Most people would be tripped up by it. I have one more bourbon, I do believe, one left, called Jepson's. This is a weird product. Thank you, David. He found a good price on it. They had it half price somewhere. He gave me a gift. Jepson's bourbon only been around for like 5 years. But they've been making this weird liquor called Malort for like 80 years. No, 90 years. It's from Chicago. And I've heard people make prank videos and stuff with Malort. Like, if you can drink a whole serving of it, you're a man, and I'm like, I don't want to try something like that, especially the price is so high. But they do sell a bourbon. And this Jepson's is a blend of straight bourbons. It's a blend of straight bourbons. They buy in bourbon from Indiana, Kentucky, and Tennessee. They're already produced straight. They're already distilled and aged, filtered and everything. They send it to Chicago. They blend it there and bottle it. Yes, you're allowed to do that. It's called a blend of straight bourbons. That is an actual class of bourbon. There's a class of bourbon called a blend of straight bourbons. You have straight bourbon, just bourbon in this case. There's something called blended bourbon, believe it or not, blended bourbon. I don't see that too much anymore. I used to see it more. And then there's a blend of straight bourbons, which some companies do sell, some big companies too. And funny thing about that, you are allowed to add flavoring and coloring to that. Why? That's the question of the hour. Why? Why would you be allowed to add coloring and flavoring? I don't know, but you are allowed to do it. And you don't have to put it on the bottle. You don't have to label it as such. So there's an end around on that. So if you ever find a bourbon that says a blend of straight bourbons, it may have flavoring or coloring added. I'm not saying it does, but it's subject to have that, as the regulations state. So you can't go after the company saying, you tricked me. They didn't trick you. Why don't you read the regulations? And there's no court case. You can forget that. The judge would say, did you bother looking at the regulations? Well, no. No, you didn't get tricked. You're just lazy. Case dismissed. I probably, Anyway, so thanks for watching. For tomorrow, Friday, I plan to do another bourbon taste challenge, and that's the Jepsons. Well, I can find it at Rouse's. They have it at Rouse's. Yeah, I think all the Rouse's sell it. Never seen it in my town. Doesn't mean anything. My town is not big, only 28,000 people, So, but yeah, check it out if you're interested. Now I'm getting off of this, so thanks for watching, and see y'all later. Bye bye, everybody.